Welcome to the Content Amplified podcast, brought to you by Masset. Our goal is to help you get more from your marketing content. Each episode is a 10 to 15 minute interview with industry experts that share amazing insights to help you squeeze as much juice from your content as you possibly can. Here's today's interview.
Welcome back to another episode of Content Amplified. Today I'm joined by Luke. Luke, welcome to the show.
Hey, Ben. Thanks for having me on. Excited to be here today.
I love it. Luke, I am excited because there's so much to learn today from your experience and what we're going to talk about today. But your experience is really relevant to the discussion. Maybe really quick before we dive in, let us know who you are and a little bit about your career and just a little bit about why you love content.
Yeah, I can give a quick Spark Notes version about how I got to where I am today. So graduating with a marketing degree, didn't get into marketing originally. I actually chose the sales route, which I'm very glad I did because you learn a lot about communicating with people and how to write, which is kind of the foundational skill for all of marketing, I think, is writing. But very quickly learned that I did not like sales at all. It was super repetitive. A lot of doing the same thing, a lot of the same conversation, kind of just feels like you're going off of a script all the time. I looked around. I've always been a huge fan of HubSpot, all of the content they put out, and just everything marketing does just seems so fun, so cool. Always like experimenting, never doing the same thing over and over. A lot of like A/B testing, operating across like tons of different channels, tons of different hats to wear. And I'm someone who gets really, really bored. So I did sales for about a year and a half at a small data consultancy, and then kind of positioned myself in the org to transition into marketing, and really, really enjoyed that because you get to wear so many different hats. I actually used to help produce a podcast, so it's very fun being on the receiving end today. But yeah, I did marketing for about 6 months at that company, and then one day on a Friday, joined an all hands meeting. And suddenly we were acquired by a Fortune 50, Fortune 100 company, engulfed into like this giant thing that I didn't really sign up for. So kind of read the writing on the wall and was looking to potentially make a move, because with acquisitions usually comes consolidation down the line. And I stumbled across this really cool company called Hightouch. And I really thought their technology was cool. They were a tiny Series A startup at the time. I've heard from my founder since then. When I joined, they were around 200,000 in revenue. So really, in SaaS terms, that is like completely negligible. But me being kind of naive at the time, I thought the technology was cool, and the founders were some of the most unique people I've ever talked to. So I ended up joining Hightouch as the first marketing hire about 3 years ago. Since then, we've grown exponentially. We have, I think, well over 500 customers today, and upwards of 100 employees, and I want to say around $90 million in funding. So the growth curve has been pretty crazy. But yeah, I've gotten to do a lot since coming here. Everything from customer marketing, a lot of work on the SEO front, and then building product categories, which has been really, really exciting and fun.
I love it. Well, Luke, I'm excited to talk about your experience because you've had the unique opportunity to really create categories with the business, where you've been able to go out there and something that didn't exist, you've kind of created this movement. What's involved in creating a category? Like, how does that start? How do you think about that on the marketing side? How does that develop and grow? And what are some thoughts in general about category creation?
Yeah, well, firstly, I just want to say, I don't think it's one person who can create a category. A lot goes into it. And I think the two most important things is specifically for SaaS businesses in general is the founders and the product. And the founders really control the product vision. For Hightouch explicitly, it's been really, really cool to see, because when I joined the company, the category had been coined, but it wasn't adopted by the market, if that makes sense. So one of the challenges we faced is like, how do we create content and awareness for people to realize and accept like the problem our product solves actually actually exists. And so I can't take credit for the actual terms that we've coined, but as far as building a lot of the awareness around them, I think that's probably more where I've contributed to. But I would say, as far as the actual terms in the category itself, I think all credit has to go to our founders, the product team, and our product marketers. Now, around that, there's a lot that we do to actually kind of move the market and convince them of that. So for context, here at High-Touch, the two terms that our company is really synonymous for is a term called reverse ETL and composable CDP. Before I dive into that a little bit more, it'd be helpful to do like a quick summary of what High-Touch is for the audience.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's hear it.
So I'll try not to do like our standard boring boilerplate, but essentially what High-Touch is we are a tool for marketers. We help them do is really synthesize and use their data to power really any marketing use cases. So everything from like loyalty programs, PetSmart's one of our customers. So they power their entire loyalty program through our product. Everything from like lifecycle marketing campaigns, so like emails, push notifications, SMS, even to like hyper-targeted paid media on Facebook, TikTok, and all of the ad platforms. And what we do is we help marketers essentially build audiences and then push those audiences to marketing tools so they can drive performance, drive growth, and really whatever business metric they're chasing after. So the challenge for our company explicitly is we started out as a data tool, helping data teams move data out of their warehouse into operational tools for business teams. And very quickly on, we realized is almost all of the use cases for the company that we were solving were marketing related. So we realized like data teams are the ones who set up the product, but marketers are the ones who actually want to use it, because marketers don't care about where the data is or where it lives. They just want to use it at the end of the day. It's just like they go to the IT team. Hey, can you give me a audience to target these people on Facebook? And then the IT team, they don't want to deal with that. They just like, but they don't want to give marketers access to their tools either. So High-Touch kind of sits in that perfect middle ground, bridging the gap between the two.
So now that we know what the business does and the categories are, and I love the team approach, right? It's the whole team, everyone's involved, and I think that's spot on. But when it comes to your responsibilities on the marketing side, how did you start to educate the market on these categories and make it synonymous with who you are, and really start to get people to catch momentum with it? These are legitimate categories that solve legitimate problems that I have.
Yeah, so it's really been two things. One, it's like really compelling thought leadership content from our founders and our product marketers. And then the second part of that, which I'm more involved in, is kind of springboarding off of the thought leadership to build really, really compelling SEO content and essentially rank around anything that our buyers will be searching. So that means kind of owning everything around moving data out of the warehouse, specifically for reverse ETL, which is a term that's really synonymous with data engineers. We've essentially built out a ton of content on the SEO side. So anyone searching like how to move data out of like these different tools that we support, like these different warehouses like Snowflake, Databricks, some pretty large companies, that anytime a user searches for one of those queries on any of the search engines, we show up our solution around there. So it's kind of like this really top-down approach where not necessarily selling our product explicitly, but getting in the conversation anytime someone is searching in the problem that we can solve, if that makes sense. Yeah. And we've done a couple of things there. One is, we call it, I'm sure you've heard of it, but like a hub and spoke approach for our SEO content. So the way we think about it now is anytime we want to own a term, whatever that term may be, we write a really, really compelling pillar post. And all of our sub-content falls underneath that. And that way we get the strongest like backlinking structure possible, internal linking structure. Everything links back to that supporting pillar posts, and the pillar post links down to all of the supporting posts.
Very cool. So with that pillar strategy, are you like specifically omitting certain things from the pillar content that gets answered in the sub articles? or are they purely extensions? Like, how does that structure work to make sure you're not duplicating value efforts, but really helping that out?
Yeah, I'd say there's always going to be some duplication across articles. I think the key is to make sure. So for like these pillar posts, a lot of the times we don't go into as much depth as the sub post. So the sub post is going to be like super in depth, and maybe the pillar post will kind of touch on those sections, and then there'll be a link to each pillar.
Love it. Love it. So one of the things when I think about SEO and content creation, especially for new categories, is often the new category has no search volume. Like you talked about, you went after specific terms that people would be searching for, but how do you think about actually like generating demand and generating and creating searches that don't currently exist?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think there's two things that come to mind. One is like, there's always some search volume for something. Like, there's not really a such thing in my belief as like zero search volume for a term. The second thing is like, you have to be really specific with how you name the term, because so we've had some categories we've tried to create that didn't take off, that kind of failed. One of those being a term called like data activation, which is something we still reference and use broadly. The term you create needs to be specific to the like problem it solves, if that makes sense. So I think one of the ways to think about category creation, it needs to be like self-explanatory almost to an extent. So in the case of reverse ETL, there's this other really big word in the data community called ETL. And essentially it just means moving data from like point A to point B. And reverse ETL is a specific subset of like how you move data between systems. And if a data engineer sees that, it's like in their mind, like they view it all the same. So it's like, okay, well, this doesn't even need a term. So they're kind of curious and we'll click on it. And then when you read it, it's like, oh, okay, so this makes sense of what it actually does. The other one, composable CDP, which CDP stands for Customer Data Platform, which is what our solution is. It's another like subset off of that. So I think it's like we kind of made subsets off of things we already knew were popular that were self-explanatory to some extent. And both of those terms, funny enough, were coined by our early customers. So reverse ETL and composable CDP. It's like, listen to what the market is saying. Like customers are a lot smarter. And if what the customer is saying, like we let them coin our product essentially.
Even if it's something you're not excited about, I think that's such a good tip, right? Like,
yeah,
don't have pride. Like if this is how they describe who you are and what you do, that's the best way to talk about yourself.
A lot of the time, like the way they describe you is the easiest way. It's not necessarily like the best way you would choose as a company, but it's definitely the simplest. And I think marketing, like we tend to overcomplicate things, and keeping things simple is like not something we're good at. I am guilty of like, I always want to include like the everything and not always just like stick to that kind of core message that we're trying to tell.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So when you're looking at all of this, creating new categories in SEO and things like that, you talked about customer, and you mentioned customer marketing. How do you look at that motion, and how does that contribute to your content, and specifically how to create a category?
A lot of it comes down to like really understanding who your ICP is, who's buying from you at the end of the day. Like, what are they using your product for? Like, why do they care? And like, what is the actual like search intent behind like what they're searching for on Google? Because if you think about the way like search engines work, we don't search the way we ask questions. We search to filter for information we're trying to extrapolate. And sometimes that means like we'll search like what is X term, but really we care about like specific use cases that I'm trying to solve, or like how other companies in my industry are doing this thing. So I think, understanding like the search intent, and then also understanding like who that customer is, and crafting content for users and not for search engines. And specifically for SEO, there's so much bad information out there, like optimizing for the algorithm, trying to pull in AI content, and all of this stuff has its place. But what I would say is like, don't over index on algorithm or AI content. Really focus on like thinking what the customer actually wants to know, and how you as a brand can address that question and leave out all of the extra fluff. Like, trim the fat is wherever you can. If that means like you have a message that's 100 words, it's like, okay, go back and re-edit that. How can I get it down to 50 words? How can I get this down to like one sentence? And really, that's how you simplify your content and make it not a 12th grade readability level, but that's how you get it down to 8th grade. It's like, how can I tell someone the same story in one sentence?
I love that. I love that. Well, as promised, these podcasts go by quick. You know, the idea here is the quick bursts of really good information. I have learned a lot. I have a lot to think about when it comes to category creation. So, Luke, thank you for sharing your insights and all the information. It's amazing. If anyone wants to reach out and further the conversation and connect with you, where can they find you online?
Yeah, just connect with me on LinkedIn. You can shoot me an email at luke@hightouch.com. But yeah, I'm always happy to chat with other marketers, always happy to share tips and tricks. Like, there's a lot of technicality you can get into, but hard to do in a podcast. So yeah, I'm always happy to do a knowledge exchange if anyone wants to reach out.
Love it. Love it. Well, again, Luke, thank you so much for the time today. Really appreciate the insights.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Content Amplified podcast. Please subscribe and leave us a review. And for additional ways to get more out of your content, visit our website at getmasset.com. That's getmasset.com. And tune in next time to the Content Amplified podcast.